How you doing? I'm Adam Levy. I'm the alcohol professor. I'm here in New York City with George Sandeman from this wonderful bottle, and we're here to discuss the family history. Please tell us.
Well, Adam, the Sandeman family got into the port business in 1790. The founder was a man called George Sandeman, coincidentally, very handy for me. And he came from Perth, Scotland, where the family originated, and came down to London, travelled to the Iberian Peninsula, Spain and Portugal, and opted to start bringing port wines and sherry wines into England and selling them. And so from there, he set up cellars and went into the business, and I'm seventh generation.
So when did this start, that he made that first journey from Perth to Scotland, or where did he see what point in, let's say, history did he see the opportunity there?
Well, he formally started the company in 1790, but the reality is that before that he'd been already working with some other port people, and he was quite a dynamic young man and had actually travelled around a lot of Europe, or a lot of Europe that was travelable in that time,
right.
And had gone as far as Egypt, which at that time was sort of considered quite a long way.
Yes.
Nowadays, I mean, you go much further.
Yes.
But so he was sort of adventurous, and he decided, I think, to buy a cellar of wine and get into the wine business with a declared intention of becoming a wealthy man.
Good. And today, your family's fully involved?
I'm involved still in the business. The business evolved, obviously. In 1953, my grandfather took the company public, and then from then on, there was an erosion of the family shareholding. But the family's been involved ever since the beginning, and in a very direct line. George Sandeman passed the company to his nephew, whose name was George Glass Sandeman, and I'm directly descended from George Glass, maintained the presence of the Sandeman family.
Now, was that the same George Sandeman who also picked the Don image?
No, then the Don joins the Don, being this silhouette,
yes.
Joins the family, so to speak, in 1928. And this actually was brought into the company by my great-grandfather, Walter Sandeman, who was very advanced in his way of thinking, and actually wanted to advertise something that wasn't done in the wine business at the time, or not largely done, and started a whole series of advertising campaigns, postering campaigns as they were, and the Don was brought to us as the Sandeman in 1928 at the cellars at 20 St Swithin's Lane in London.
Okay.
And was bought for 50 guineas
really?
At the time, which nowadays doesn't seem like a lot of money, but it was the artist's salary for a year.
Wow.
So it was at that time it was still quite a lot of money.
Great. Do you find that as a family business, to some extent, as your name is so associated with ports, that it's such a direct connection, it's such a lineage, that you want to continue that?
Yes, I think so. Although I have children, and I'm not certain that they feel the same pressure. And I say pressure because I once talked to my father about doing something else, and his very simple, straightforward question was, "What else would you do?" And so I joined the wine company and worked in the business. And I mean, I'm delighted to have done it because it's a great business. The port business has had its ups and downs, but the wine is a fantastic wine. It's grown in a wonderful area in the north of Portugal, and it's very, very special.
And I know you have a wonderful visiting area center, the cellar there. It's got great reviews in TripAdvisor and other online sources, and also in magazines. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the port has a number of things that make it unique in terms of the wine. The first is that, unlike other wines, the fermentation is not completed. So all of the sugar that you find in the grapes is not transformed into alcohol, but remains in the wine through the addition of alcohol, which stops the fermentation. And that makes it a rich wine. And this is done up in the Douro Valley. And it's about 150, 100, yeah, about 150 miles inland from the town of Oporto.
Okay.
And it's the town of Oporto that gives the name port to the wine. And the big thing here is that the cellars are down, obviously, in Oporto, right on the Atlantic Ocean. You see, it's the west coast of Europe, and the next stop after that is actually probably New York, heading straight across. And the climate here is much cooler, whereas you have a very hot climate, very aggressive climate inland, which gives you lots of wonderful characteristics in the grapes and the wines. On the coast, you have this wonderful sort of more temperate climate, and that allows the wines to age very well. In fact, there's a well-known saying, at least well-known in Portugal, which is you need the fire of the Douro and the fog of Oporto to make a good port.
I gotcha.
Now, to answer your question, because you asked about the visit area,
Yes.
we do actually have in those cellars a visit area, and we're very happy to receive a large number of visitors who come around and see the cellars. It's quite curious to see them banging on the casks because they don't believe they're full. It must be just for show, but they are actually full.
I've been to those places where it's been empty barrels, so yes.
No, we can't. I mean, let me put it this way: we can't afford to have that much space without wine in the barrel.
Barrels are not cheap.
No.
You want to use those barrels.
You need to use the barrels.
So they stop leaking, use those barrels.
Yeah, exactly. In fact, if you don't use them, that's when they deteriorate.
Right.
So it's true. But we get a lot of people come visit, and we also have just set up in the Douro at a farm called Quinta do Seixo, which is a very historical farm as well, and it's right in the middle of the Douro, just below the small town called Pinhão, which is Little Nut translation. And there's a visitor area there as well, which is very worthwhile visiting because it really takes you through a circuit right through where the wines are being made.
Okay.
So you go in the harvest time, you actually look down on people making.
And when is harvest time?
Harvest time is around this time of year. In fact, starting mid-September through to the end of October, depending a little bit on the development of the year. And we are currently harvesting.
Why are you here? Okay. So no, we're really happy to have George here, and hopefully if you're in Portugal and you get that long layover after your summer vacation and you have time, go to Portugal, check out the Porto production. And thank you very much from the Alcohol Professor.